My channel. I'm Christina and this is the Beauty Rookie. If this is your first time here, welcome, and if you're back, welcome back. Today is Makeup Bag Monday number 3, and I'm gonna try to keep it short and sweet because the last few have been really long, so I'm not doing as many products this week. They're really good ones. If you're just now joining me and you're not familiar with Makeup Bag Monday is a series that was started by Serene Wu here on YouTube. Basically what it is you are going to test out a set of products for an entire week to give them a fair shot. At the end of the week, we review those products and pick new ones. So they can be old favorites that need to be rotated in your collection or new purchases. But it's just a really good way to rotate your collection, to shop your stash, and just give products a really fair chance. So I only have 4 products this week. The first one being the e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation. Looks like that. This foundation is about $6. I got it for $4 because there was a coupon at my grocery store. On the e.l.f. website, it states that this is a semi-matte finish foundation with lightweight and oil-free formula. And I do agree with all of that. It is incredibly comfortable, very lightweight. It feels like nothing. It also feels like nothing going on. And because it is oil-free, you don't get as shiny throughout the day, and it does hold up pretty well. Now, that said, because it is oil-free, for somebody like me, it is not very hydrating. So you're going to want to hydrate your skin beforehand. I think that the times that I haven't used a hydrating primer or an oil underneath it, it has not looked great. It's been a little patchy and it has clung to dry spots a little bit. Now I'm wearing it today over a face oil and I think it looks really good today, like really natural and really healthy. And I really like the formula of it. It reminds me a lot of the Marc Jacobs Genius Gel Foundation. It's that same kind of texture. Let me show you. It's pretty thick and moussey, almost a gel. Mostly blended in so you can see. I would not say that this is like a little bit goes a long way. I did find that it is light to medium coverage and you can build up to a pretty heavy medium, but I don't really feel like you ever really get a full coverage with it. I do still see my skin peeking through. You can still see some of my hyperpigmentation and discoloration spots. So it's not going to cover everything, but it is going to give you a more perfected version of yourself, if that makes sense. It's not going to completely cover all flaws, and it's not going to fill pores. If you have pore problems like I do, this isn't going to take care of it. I wouldn't say that it makes the pores look worse, but it certainly doesn't do anything to make them look better. So I would definitely still go with like a pore filling primer underneath it. So I would hydrate and then maybe just on your problem areas go in with something like a professional. I do think that it works well with pretty much every primer that I tried this week. It worked with, it played well with others. Products went well over it. I don't think that you have to set it, at least I didn't. It felt comfortable and not sticky at all. I get a pretty solid 6 hours. I know I've seen some reviews where people are getting way more time. I don't find that to be the case. I do find it to start to break up a little bit in my areas, especially like right here. I think that might have to do with my, my personal skin. I'm combo. I get very dry here and very oily here. And so on those areas, I did see a little bit around the 6 hour mark to start to break up just a little bit. Not noticeable enough, but because I'm like, really in the mirror right here analyzing everything. That's how I felt about it. I do think that you could get a full work day with this for sure, especially if you build up to like the fuller end of the medium spectrum. I think this would hold up really well for you. If you are incredibly dry, I would still give it a try, but just make sure that you are really prepping your skin for it because it can be very unforgiving. Another thing to note about this is that I do not think that brushes do a good job with it at all. I think that you need a Beauty Blender sponge. You need that extra hydration to kind of help you. It doesn't have to be a Beauty Blender, just any sponge. I really enjoyed this for $6. I absolutely hated the Wet n Wild foundation, the one that everybody likes, the jar one. It smelled like paint. Ugh. I think if you're looking for another super cheap foundation that just looks really good, this would be it. It's not as full coverage as the Wet n Wild, but I think it's a much more comfortable and sophisticated formula. I really like the glass frosted packaging, and it's a steal at $6. There's only 11 shades, and there were only 3 at my store, and I only ever see 3 anywhere I go. This is Porcelain, and I do think that the dry down is slightly darker. It used to be called Porcelain, but now it's called Natural. Maybe that means that they're extending the line and they're going to add some fairer shades, but this is the fairest shade they make, and it matches me like pretty well. But shade range, man, Elf, you gotta step it up, man. So this gets a big A+ from me. I really enjoyed using it. Now to the fun part. My Anastasia purchases, and I have thoughts, and they're all mostly good, okay? I'm gonna just say that right now. Let's start with the Soft Glam palette. Oh, Soft Glam. Soft Glam palette, give you a refresher. I'm gonna say it, guys. This is my favorite Anastasia palette. Yes, it's better than the Modern Renaissance. It's not better than my Mario palette, but because you cannot get the Mario palette, I'm going to rate this the best palette in their collection right now. I just love it. I absolutely love it. I had such a good time creating looks for it. Today, I'm doing all the rosy tones down here. I did a gold look. I did a cranberry look. I just really love this. You can take it from daytime to nighttime completely seamlessly. The colors are just perfection. And I know, yes, a lot of these are existing shades. So I'm not telling you that if you already have those shades that you need to run out and buy them, because that would be wasteful and nobody needs to do that. But I do love that they're in a convenient package. And like I told you guys last time, I personally don't have a lot of those shades. I only have the shades that come in previous palettes. And I really didn't mind having repeats because they do work so well together, and there's not a shade in here that I would say take out or replace with something else, because everything in here works so well. I love that there's 3 different tones of deeper brown that you can do pretty much anything, and different undertones. I really do feel like this is such a good palette. If you never bought Modern Renaissance and you're considering buying it, I honestly think try this first, okay? Try this first, get a feel for the shadows, see if you like the formula, and I just think the shades are going to be a lot more universal. Modern Renaissance was beautiful, but it is a lot more like mauve-y and purpley and cranberry. This has a lot more neutrals that you can work into pretty much any look. This is also going to be a great companion palette to any colorful palette that you might have, because it just has so much versatility. As far as the formula, it is exactly the same as Modern Renaissance. It is not like Subculture, so that means that it's not going to be pure pigment. They are very pigmented. There's a lot of fallout and there's a lot of kick up to these shadows. They're very soft, but that ends up working in your favor because they're very, very easy to blend. They're very silky, very buttery. They do stay on the lid. I didn't have any issues like I did with Subculture. I had no issues with patchiness. I had no issue with blendability. Everything was exactly as you wanted it to be. But I'm so happy with this. This is going to for sure be my new travel palette because I don't need anything else whatsoever. It's a workhorse palette without being boring, and it does have a little bit of that romance in there and softness, but like I said, you can take it into like a smoky direction if you want with a little more drama. If you already own Modern Renaissance and all her previous palettes, do you need this? I don't know if need is the right word, but honestly, I think this fills a gap that wasn't being filled before, and I do not think that you will regret owning it. I don't feel like I wasted money. I don't feel like it's something that I have 1,000 times over, even though I have a million neutral palettes. It's so good, guys. It's so good. I think you should. I think you should all have it. So let's talk about the matte bronzers. I have conflicting thoughts, but overall, I do really like it. But let me explain to you why I have mixed feelings about it, okay? First of all, the shade. It looks quite neutral on camera, but on my skin, if you can sort of tell, it's a little bit on the rosier side. I mean, it is called Rosewood. I should have probably gone with Tawny, which was going to be a little bit more brown-based, I'm assuming. So it's a little bit more rosy, and on me, it can look more like a blush than a bronzer. That said, it's a beautiful shade, and I do think it makes me look sun-kissed. So on day-to-day basis, I usually use my bronzer to subtly contour. I don't like to do a heavy contour, but I do use a pretty neutral bronzer to kind of carve out my cheekbones and give me a little bit more dimension. I don't feel like this does that very well. It does give you that sunburnt look, which is what a bronzer is supposed to do. So I use bronzer how it's not supposed to be used, right? You're supposed to use a contour powder for contour and a bronzer for bronzing. So it is a great bronzing powder, but for me, I can't use it just solo, right? Like I need to contour as well, which is kind of a bummer because I like to just be quick and go. I do really love the formula though. The formula is exactly like the blushes if you're familiar with her blushes. It's very pigmented, it blends really well. And I hate saying, oh, it's really pigmented, like everyone says pigmented, but they really are. And it's going to give you a lot of kick up because there is a lot of pigment and it's very soft powders. But it does translate really well to actually blending on your skin. But that said, with certain foundations, it can be very patchy. So I do have to put a loose powder down on top and then go over it on top of that. So it just depends on what foundation you're using. And you know, powders go well on top of powder. A lot of YouTubers go from foundation straight to powder, contour, powder, and that can work depending on the finish of your foundation, but for the most part, you are going to need to set that foundation and have something for the powder to blend over. It's just the way it is. So, solo, this can be patchy. Without foundation, just on bare skin, this actually blends super beautifully. It's just like the formula on her shadows. They are silky smooth and they blend really well. So if you can find a shade that works for you, I do really recommend this. Is it my favorite bronzer ever? No, it's not. I think I prefer the Marc Jacobs one, but it's solid and I think it's gonna work for a lot of you. Let's talk about the Amrezy highlight. I love it. 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 It is stunning. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I'm wearing it today, which I don't know if you can tell on camera, but I absolutely love it. It blends like just butter. It just butter. It's almost like a gelée formula. There's a swatch of it. It's highly reflective. It can give you that wet look, which I think we're all kind of into right now. If you put it over a liquid highlight, it's even more blinding. It blends so beautifully. And because it doesn't have a strong base color, it really does just look reflective without casting any kind of shade. This one, because it doesn't have a strong yellow base, it's just going to kind of take the tone of your skin and just enhance it with a little bit of gold, a little bit of champagne, and just look amazing. I really, really, really think that most skin tones can use this. I would say this is a universal shade that anybody can use. The formula is beautiful. I hope that they come out with more shades. Like a rose gold of this would be just like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that would be so good. I really like it. So after the soft glam, I would say this is my favorite, and then the bronzers would be my last favorite. Those are my mini reviews for last week's products. Let's talk about what I've picked for this week to try out. It's actually spring break here. My son does not have school at all. I will probably not be able to film a lot this week, so I wanted to keep it simple, and I'll probably not be wearing a ton of makeup. Okay, the first thing, and you guys are gonna laugh at me because it's the tiniest sample of history, but I'm going to be trying the Marc Jacobs Shameless Foundation. I've tried it twice before, and I still don't know how I feel about it, honestly. I've now seen a lot of reviews with more tips on how to make it look good and how to really get the most of it. So I want to try those. If you watch Katie, you know what I'm talking about. So I want to try those, and I just want to give it a fair shot. It's a pretty small sample, but I think it should last me the full week. Well, I'm going to try it with different primers, different powders, etc., and we'll see how this works, and I'll give you a very honest review. I'm pretty harsh on foundations, so if I don't love it, but we're gonna give it a full week and see what happens. Next products were sent to me by Influencer, and they are the Grande Lash collection, and I've only ever used Grande the lip plumper, and I was like kind of about it. So I'm very curious about these, but they sent me a lash serum, which I've never tried a lash serum before, so I'm very curious to see how this does with my eyes. My eyes are also very sensitive, so I'm very curious to see how something like this is going to affect me, if it's gonna make my eyes water or not. They also sent me a primer to go under your mascara, and I'm not a huge fan of primers usually for my eyelashes. I've never seen a difference really, except for that you get that white stuff all over and then your mascara doesn't cover it all and it's just a pain. So we're gonna see how this works. It says it's a microfiber formula, and 94% of people prefer their lashes with their primer. We're gonna see, we're gonna give it a shot. And then they sent me their mascara, which I've also never tried, but a lot of the beauty accounts that I follow on Instagram talk about this being an awesome mascara. I am going to try it solo and with the primer so we can kind of get an idea, and I'll actually film a get ready with me clip, so I'll put it into next week's review so you guys can see, you know, how it looks and if there's a difference between one eye and the other eye. And my last product, which you guys will be very excited about, is a Pat McGrath palette. It's so beautiful. The packaging is just unreal. So that's the exterior box that it comes with. Focus, kind of Egyptian, I don't know. It's so stunning. And look at that. Like a beveled mirror that makes it just look like a little jewel box, and then the eyeshadows are in here. This is the Sublime palette, and I've used it, obviously I've used it 2 or 3 times, but I've done the same or similar look 3 times. And I just really want to see what this palette can do and give you a full review on if it's worth it. And that's it for Makeup Bag Monday this week. Thank you guys for joining me. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great spring break if you are on spring break. If not, I'm sorry. Or should I say I'm sorry? Because we all have our kids at home, and sometimes we need breaks. So enjoy your week, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.